You're not lazy, you're not unmotivated, you're just overstimulated. Welcome back to the Uncover Your Eyes podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Meenal Agarwal. Today, we're going to talk about something that I see in every patient, every friend, every colleague, and even in myself. A brain that's fried from too much input and eyes that have forgotten how to rest. If you've ever opened your phone to check just one thing and 45 minutes later, you notice that you're still scrolling and you feel drained, if your brain feels foggy by noon, if your eyes ache even though your labs are fine, if your body feels like it's running on caffeine and cortisol, this episode is for you, because what most people don't realize is that your eyes are the front line of your nervous system, and we're overstimulating it every day, especially by using a form of a screen almost all day. Let's start with what's happening inside the brain. When you stare at a screen, whether it's a phone, a monitor, or even your smartwatch, your eyes are looking at it with your fovea. Your fovea is a small central area in your retina, which dictates your central vision. That is about 10 degrees of your visual field, which is literally like just looking at the computer screen, that flat rectangle. Everything else around it is not dictated by your fovea. Your fovea is responsible for color and fine detail. When you look through your fovea, that information goes to one of your bipolar cells and then your ganglion cell. And then that information goes through your optic nerve to an area in the brain called your thalamus, specifically going to the LGN area of your thalamus and your parvocellular layers. So this is a very specific area of your thalamus. From there, it goes to your V1 area, which is in your occipital lobe. So it's your visual cortex, and it goes to the posterior part of your visual cortex. From there, that information goes down a what pathway, we like to call it, or the ventral stream, which is through your temporal cortex. So this is a very specific pathway that's traveling all around our brains to process what am I looking at, whether it's the fine lines, the details, the shapes, but what you are looking at centrally. Then there's another pathway by which you are looking at something around that computer screen or further than those 10 degrees of central vision. So when you look at a computer, you can still see what's around it. So that is dictated by your peripheral vision. Your peripheral vision is dictated by your peripheral retina. So that area that is not your fovea. Now, just to backtrack a little bit, your fovea is concentrated with cones. So these are photoreceptors that, again, do fine detail and color. It has no rods in it. Your peripheral area of your retina has mainly rods. It does have cones for, color and some detail, but it's mainly dictated by rods. The ratio is actually interesting. It's 120 million rods to about 6 million cones. And 15 to 30 of those rods send messages to one bipolar cell and then one ganglion cell. So the ratio is higher. When we were talking about cones, it was a 1-to-1 ratio. So therefore, you can see that the detail is going to be less with your peripheral vision. From the ganglion cells, it goes to your optic nerve, goes to your thalamus, your brain, the LGN, but a different area called the magnocellular area of the LGN. And then that information goes to the anterior part of your visual cortex, not the posterior. And that goes down a what pathway, or the dorsal stream, which goes through the parietal cortex area. And that is helping us understand what is around us and what are we seeing. And where am I in space? Where is my body? Where are others related to, relative to each other as well. So when we live our lives foveally, which is in that narrow digital tunnel, we shut down that peripheral system. And when that system dims, something fascinating happens. Your brain actually interprets it as a threat. Why? Because evolutionarily, a loss of peripheral awareness meant danger, darkness, isolation, something is happening. So the amygdala in the brain, which is responsible for kind of danger, goes on high alert. And the vagus nerve kind of goes downwards and tunes out. And that is responsible for rest and digest. That's why when you're looking at a screen all day, you feel wired but tired, and alert but unfocused, and hungry for dopamine. You want to go on that constant loop. You keep wanting more of that digital time. So you're in fear, you're in not in rest and digest, and you keep going at it. But it's because you've lost that peripheral awareness. And a lot of us don't want to get up from our computer screens. It's almost the unknown, even if we're in our homes, of what's in our home. It's a subconscious feeling notion, but it's actually a brain process, a legit process of losing our peripheral processing pathways. And every ping, every scroll, every swipe hits your visual cortex and dopamine system at once. These are kind of called microstimulations, kind of tiny bursts that your brain treats like a reward. So every time your brain releases that small hit of dopamine, the same chemicals that are released for motivation and pleasure, you keep wanting more and keep going back to it. But here's the catch: the more dopamine that you're getting released, the less sensitive your receptors are. So you actually need more of a hit to be able to experience that same sense of pleasure. So you keep going back for more, and then you want more of it. So you want more stimulation, more to be heightened by it. It's literally a drug. And we talk about sugar and drugs and alcohol and smoking, but literally our screens are giving us that same hit. That's why, if you notice, you might even check your phone when you don't want to, or sometimes you're in a silent environment and it feels really uncomfortable. And your vagus nerve, that long nerve that connects your brain to your heart, your lungs, and your gut, just can't keep up. It needs rhythm, slow breathing, movement, eye shifts, day night cycles. But the modern world has replaced this rhythm with this constant visual input. So your nervous system never gets downtime. So you're stuck in this sympathetic overdrive, but you're also stuck in this constant state of low grade threat. So let's process that, and let's just talk about what the science shows first. There was a 2018 study that found that prolonged near activity or work, like screens, reading, reduced activation in the dorsal stream, the brain's spatial and motion processing center. So, in simple terms, your brain becomes less aware of your surroundings and more trapped in a visual loop. There was another study that was done in 2021, and that talked about if your peripheral vision isn't used, then your brain actually rewires its connections, and it prioritizes central focus over spatial processing. So your brain literally becomes less three-dimensional. That's why I don't know if you guys have noticed, but when you're sitting on a computer or like even reading a book for a very long time and then you get up, you almost feel like disoriented or you don't know what's happening. That's because your balance system's off. That's all part of your parietal cortex, your peripheral processing, system, and it helps you with balance as well. So everything's out of whack. So when you get up, it's like almost give me a second to know what's happening. And that's also why we are lost, without a GPS. There was a study done that talked about 93% of people actually feel they would get lost without a GPS. And some of them reported that these would be areas that they're familiar with and have gone 100 times. I also feel that way. So I think it's just a societal thing that we are losing our understanding of space, directions, where we are. So here's the good news: your brain is neuroplastic, it can change, and we can rewire our connections and rebuild our spatial awareness. My first, rule of thumb or step is the 20-20-20 rule, especially as an eye doctor. So every 20 minutes for 20 seconds even, look 20 feet or far away. I love to tell my patients to position their desks near a window, because when you look out the window, that's far away enough. And that just helps to serve as a reminder to keep looking out in the distance. So even those short breaks helps us to build up peripheral awareness. And that's what I do. So even if I'm at home, working on my computer, I'll get up to, go get water or go do this. I'll purposely tell myself that I need to get up for some reason. Even if it means being on the phone, I'll get up and, be on the phone. The second thing I want everybody to do is actually physically get up more and, have more movement. Going for a walk is a great idea every, now and then while you're on your computer all day. And, there was a great trend on TikTok that was called the color walk trend. And you pick a color and then you go on a walk and you take a photo of everything that you notice in that color and then post it on TikTok, which you don't have to do. But it was really interesting because really that is increasing your spatial awareness and noticing what's around you. And even just getting up from your computer and stretching your arms, wiggling your feet, whatever you can do, moving your neck to help increase that, spatial awareness, your body movement, and connecting everything in your parietal cortex and getting it exercised and moving. So those are the two most simplest things that you can do to help better your spatial awareness without investing any money and without doing anything. And these things may sound small, but they pull your brain out of sympathetic overdrive and back into a parasympathetic calm. So when your eyes are constantly, locked forward and your world is shrinking, so does your sense of self, your belonging. But when you reconnect with that space with depth, motion, light, your brain reclaims balance. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just living in a world where we are flooded with stimulation of our fovea and that area of our visual cortex constantly, that we are not aware of what's happening around us. And this is going to be a phenomenon that's going to take over, an epidemic in the next, 15, 20 years. And we really have to take control over it now and start exercising those areas because you want to start feeling differently. And that's where healing begins. A lot of our vision and brain and body and movement, everything is connected. So until we understand the role that vision plays in all of this, we won't know how to heal. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in. If you want to catch more episodes of Uncover Your Eyes, make sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. To learn more about me, follow me on Instagram at dr.Meenal Agarwal. Until next time, keep those eyes uncovered.